Hi, you're listening to the That One Season podcast. I'm Antoine Buttery, alone today to present this dear episode, the 43rd. And as usual, we're sponsored, powered by The Old Loot, a website where you can get all your favorite kits from any era. TheOldLoot.com ships to Canada, the US, Australia, the UK, the whole world. And any kit that you wish to have is a click away from being in your dressing room. So today's episode is a rocky one as I'm a United fan, and today we're going to talk about Manchester United and their 2017-18 season. First, we're going to talk about uh, rapidly the season before and how it came to the one we're talking about today. Then we're going to talk about a brief season overview, um, key signings of that summer, departures and changes in coaching, for example. And then we're going to talk about the different performances, whether it's domestically, so in the league, in the cup, then in Europe with the Champions League. Any standout player, the famous Messi Award, as we like to call it, the Messiah in this case, although it's not really one. And finally, a verdict of it, of how this season almost ranks in the post Sir Alex Ferguson years and Manchester United. So, briefly, the season before 2016-17 was a very, how could I put this, changing season for United. As United hired Jose Mourinho, the special one of the most famous coaches on the planet, and also has a massive summer that year, with first breaking the record for a transfer with the highest ever at the time, with Paul Pogba leaving Juventus and coming back home to Manchester for about £90 million. Another massive signing at the time was Henrik Mkhitaryan from Dortmund, the Armenian for about £30 million. How that turned out, we'll talk about that later. Also, Eric Bailly coming from Villarreal, Zlatan, the legendary Swedish striker, signing on free from PSG, coming over, massive contract though. And that season, United achieves, United wins, well, not a treble, but still three trophies with the first of all the Community Shield, which is whether you want to count it as a trophy is up to you. Then the Carabao Cup against Southampton, and finally the big one, the Europa League against Ajax in May, with Paul Pogba shining in the final. Although a almost disappointing Premier League season, only finishing sixth, but qualifying to next year's Champions League through this Europa League win. So United comes in that season with. If we want to talk only about the departures from that season, we're going to have to talk about maybe the biggest one is Wayne Rooney, who I personally consider to be the greatest player to ever play for my club, Man United, the one I support, leaving on a free for Everton. So going back to Everton, Mourinho putting him out, kind of putting him down almost like a dog the way he treated him over the last season, being ruthless as usual. But in general, in the summer, it's mostly arrivals we're going to talk about, with the big one first, who I think in the time was also the most, well, we talked about Pogba being the most expensive player ever when he was bought in summer 2016. Here we have Lukaku, the Everton Belgian striker, who joins United for about £70 million, which was a record transfer at the time. Also, alongside him, Matic, the at the time one of the best defensive midfielders in the league, joining United for about £30 million from Chelsea as well, from a a direct rival. Lindelof also, who was a Brighton at the time, only 22 when he signed. The Swedish centre back signing from Benfica for a fee of about £28 million. So when it comes to the transfers, I believe until we're going to talk about the ones that happened during the winter break, for the ones in the summer, that is all. So United comes into that season, I remember, with massive expectations, with such a talented group, led by Paul Pogba and Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who, to be fair, did do his ACL around March the season before, so couldn't play until about October, November. But anyway, many talented players. Lukaku brought in, the hype was massive. Mourinho at the helm. De Gea was probably considered to be the best goalkeeper on the planet at that time. Maybe a bit of a weak centre back pair with Bailly when he wasn't injured, Smalling and Jones. But overall, just a hyper talented team with Pogba, Matic, and Mata at the midfields, Fellaini on the bench. In attack, sorry, in attack, you have Lukaku down the middle, Martial, who was still about 22, and who we all thought was going to be the next Thierry Henry or whatever. Rashford also still there, showing many signs, many promising signs. Um, Mkhitaryan was there at the start of the season, sorry, but as we talk about, he left later, maybe for the better. He wasn't really that good. Valencia on the right, who was in the team of the season, so and probably his best season, so right in his prime. And this season is kind of special to talk about for United because United finishes second with about 75 points, but almost 20 points behind their rival, Man City. The game, the football, is rather not entertaining. I had to endure it. If you've seen this team, you know what I'm talking about. Mourinho putting usually five defenders at the back, parking the bus, like we call it. Not exactly trying to play a game of football, just trying to, well, you nick a goal, and you basically just cement it behind, which is not exactly United way, in my opinion. And back then, I was already Mourinho out. Um, uh, Apart from the Premier League, United went out in the round of 16 in the Champions League. A very disappointing loss, which I'm going to talk about. Lose the FA Cup final and goes out a bit early in the Carabao. I can't exactly remember that, to be honest. Uh, but anyway, it's a very special season for United because the first cracks of Jose Mourinho's reign start to come through. Loads of rumours also around some players leaving the club, especially Paul Pogba with his agent, Mino Raiola, as usual, spreading rumours in the media about Real Madrid coming back to Italy, going to Paris, and even at some point talking about the rivals, Man City, to the press, which was uh, the best way to just cause trouble and drama at the club. I mean, it's United, the biggest, the most popular club in England. Whatever you think about it, it's the one the media cares the most about, even when we're bad, even when we're good, even when it's the international break and there's nothing to talk about. There's a way to talk about United. And that season was truly full of drama. And one point that I'm going to talk about, which is to me the breaking point of the season, is truly that loss in the run of 16 to Sevilla. Because before that, the season's going in the Premier League, you're like, okay, City's probably going to win it after December, after that one game where United lost at home against them 2-1. The title was pretty much in their hands, but there was still hope for the Champions League because the group stages went very well. United won all their games, so finished top. They draw Sevilla, and you think to yourself, surely you're going to make it through. Although it's an opponent to respect, but United comes into the first game in Spain, and sits at the back for 90 minutes. One of the most boring games I have genuinely ever seen in my life. And it just ends up 0-0. So, um, Benny was satisfied with it. But back then, the away goal rule still existed. And on the return game, the second leg at Trafford, Sevilla nicks a goal in around the second half, Ben Yedder, and then it's panic at United. They get for the whole game. United had been, to be fair, attacking, but failing to score a goal, and also proposing, apart from a few chances, generally boring football and being very uninspired. Although Pogba was here, our main creator, and you end up losing on a De Gea mistake, a second one, before before Lukaku scores a goal in at a time, but nothing to do with that. And after that, the club just kind of implodes. There's a few here and there. There's that game at City where United comes back from 2-0 down and wins 3-2, led by Paul Pogba. But it was still covering the cracks. I mean, that game, was fantastic. I loved it when I watched it, but it was just delaying City's inevitable crowning that year, which did eventually happen. Um, but it's truly when the cracks started to come through, and then the season later, which we're going to talk about on some episode someday, Mourinho gets sacked, a whole other business. Anyway, one of the main changes also in the season is the winter transfer window, where I'd say three massive moves happen. Alexis Sanchez, who at the time was one of the 10 best players in the Premier League, comes from Arsenal for about £29 million, and we give Arsenal Enric Mkhitaryan in a sort of trade. We swap him and a bit of money for Sanchez. And I'm sure, as you all know, Sanchez was maybe one of the biggest flops in the history of the Premier League. Um, One of genuinely the worst players to ever put on a United shirt. Scored very few goals, very disappointing. Did not look interested. Overpaid about 400, £1,000 a week. Just one of the biggest disappointments, and also giving him the iconic number 7 is just. I mean, it seemed like maybe the right thing in the first place, but oh god. So the third move I want to talk about is Zlatan, who was already 36. This ACL injury was kind of ruined his United career at least, because as we know, he went on to play for a few more years. Goes to America, MLS, Los Angeles Galaxy, and basically, his time at United was done. Lukaku was having a rather good season, although you have to actually look at the games he scored in, which were not all big games, but still scoring loads of goals, and even Rashford coming through, Martial being able to play up top. All of it was time for Zlatan. Although giving us a very, very, very good first and kind of only season, it was time for him to go. So now on to my favourite section, and one you don't like to do for United in any of the past SAF post Sir Alex Ferguson years, which is talking about our Messiah Award, the Messi Award. Who was the best player that year? So here I have three contenders, right? I have Paul Pogba, um, not the most liked player. I have David De Gea, which is I think the one I'm going to pick, and finally I have Nemanja Matic coming in from Chelsea. So starting with the first one, Paul Pogba. I always love Paul Pogba, and I don't think this is his best season, so I'm not going to forget to give it to him. But injured for a few months as well between October and December, but still giving us one of his best seasons with incredible stats performance, and then winning the World Cup with France a few months later. Just probably almost the peak of his United, and it's very sad to say, but almost his like footballing career. Such a talented player, kind of wasted, but you know, just how it happens. And that season, so Pogba gives in the league, plays 27 games, so a bit injured, but out of 38 possible, scores 6 goals and assists 10 of them, which is very good. He gives us very solid performances everywhere, pretty much, except Sevilla, where he kind of shits it in the second leg. So second one, Matic, a bit of the same, but not as shiny in the stats. Very defensive midfielder, but one of the key pieces to the team. And finally, the one I'm going to give it to is a player I've hated over the past few years, but that season absolutely exceptional. David De Gea, who was probably in his prime back then. Just yeah, as people who say, he could save the Titanic. That game against Arsenal, over 10 saves, some of them absolutely impossible, keeps United in a game and wins the game for them. This is his prime, his clear prime. Pogba, I hesitated between him and Pogba, and I think this is undeniably De Gea's prime. Best goalkeeper in the world. Then goes to the World Cup in the summer 2018 and starts to regress and make a lot of mistakes. But this is generally one of the best goalkeeper years ever when it comes to maybe let's say just shot stopping. He wins Golden Glove as well, having the most clean sheets in the league. Just an overall fantastic year that can't be measured. You have to watch it to talk about it. I'm sure we've all watched it. He was probably also United's most valuable player, which earned him a new contract this season after earning £475,000 a week, which did end up costing United more than anything, but at the time was deserved. You can deny it. And finally, where does this rank in the post Sir Alex Ferguson United years? So out of the ones we've covered, I would say that this would be second best to 2016-17, the year before. As you finish second, you go to the FA Cup final. Champions League, you have, well, just very disappointing run, but there's still, there's good results, there's loads of points, but there's just, we all knew back then, even then, we weren't good enough to compete with City, and that Mourinho was basically running on thin ice a lot. And that's only other one we've covered, but to be fair, this is one of our best finishes post Sir Alex Ferguson, and one of our best seasons, even counting the ones that have gone since then. Although most of them have been worse than this one. I think if we had to rank it today in the 10 seasons that have happened since Sir Alex Ferguson's retirement, I'd probably put it as third or fourth. This is a very good year for United, although maybe not the standard club at United. If you take the club after Sir Alex Ferguson leaving, this is when we thought we were kind of going in the right direction. Oh well. So on about this episode today, this is going to be the end of it. Next episode coming up will be about another club that season who had a much better season than us, especially considering the expectations for them, which is Liverpool. So see you next week for it. This podcast was sponsored by the Old Loots, your favorite kit website. We can get all the retro kits from any era you like. They ship to Australia, Canada, US, UK, Europe, everywhere, anywhere you want to get it, you can get it. It's just a click away from you. Thank you for listening to us, and have a good day.